you guys. How are you all? Thank you guys for being here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, we are kind of back at our morning lives. It should have been a little earlier, but I had some things that I had to take care of. So, here we are. But I have to, okay, so B Crumbs and I had been talking about Nancy Grace loosely in the last couple of days. Well, 13 hours ago, she uploads um, a video that says mom gets immunity regarding Maddie Soto. I ran across it because I saw that BHB had done a live also claiming Jen Soto gets immunity. And I'm like, what is this about? Like, is there something new, something I don't know? And I want to play it for you guys. I want to show you some things. I think this is important because misinformation will spread like wildfire. When I was shocked. I mean, there's so much information out there. There are so many police reports, audios, typed versions of reports after these interviews. There is so much out there, and it just takes a little research to really know what's going on. So I thought we might as well kind of put everything together and show factually what's going on. Also, like I wrote in my community post, I want to go ahead and apologize to people who are fans of Nancy Grace. Honestly, I used to really love her show. I remember back on when it was on HLN, like maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. I used to watch her all the time at 8 o'clock on HLN. Ashley Banfield had a show, I think, at 7. Oh, and, no, just for anybody who likes her, no disrespect, but I do want to also show you something else that came out that B Crumbs found regarding her time as a prosecutor in Fulton County. So we're going to go through all of that. Denise, thank you so much for gifting those memberships. Thank you. I appreciate that. And just kind of hang out this morning and go through it step by step and try to make sense of this. So that is the plan. Hey, Avery. Hey, B Crumbs. Hey, Tess. Hey, Pointer Lover. I know you do. I thought of you right after my post. I was like, oh. But, I could see why. Like I said, I used to watch her back in the day too. But, I think this is important to talk about. Factually. Hey, K-Braze. Hey, Alicia. Hey, Connie. Sister Karen. Hey, Jen. Jen said, I love Nancy. Hey, Sprinkled Donut. Hey, Michelle. Crystal, Little Red. Hey, Carol. Yes, it's okay. I'm going to walk us through all of this. But before we start, I'll just show you this little screenshot I took from Google. So, derivative use immunity is a type of protection given to a person who is forced to testify in a criminal case. It means the person's testimony cannot be used against them in a future prosecution. However, the government can still prosecute if they can prove that their evidence came from a different source. Now, Nancy does halfway describe this type of immunity, but she doesn't explain that Jen Soto can still be charged from anything else besides this one interview that she did. Okay, so I also have the interview that she did. We're going to listen to the beginning of it where the detectives describe what's going on there. They're at the state attorney's office. This took place April 18th of 2024. But first, let's get right into Nancy's video and watch it together. Because this is the problem. Let me show you. People that don't really know the case go on to, haven't looked at all the documents, don't even know how many beds are in the house, don't know anything about a lot of the different stuff. They see part of this Nancy Grace thing, and then they just think, oh my God, I can't believe she has immunity. And that's kind of the way that it was coming across to me. So that's why I thought, let's just watch it together and walk through this. And then we'll go into a little Nancy Grace history after.
Breaking news tonight, murdered Maddie Soto, just 13 years old. Mommy gets immunity? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
I sent them to sleep upstairs in the guest bedroom so that I could get a good night's sleep. I think we need.
Now, the way I understand it, so Nancy's team has seemed to put together some different interview clips, a few photos, things like that. And they will play and show some of that as we go.
To get you a lawyer. But that was me assuming that you guys had the wrong guy, not that he had done all this shit to her. I don't know why I wasn't thinking him. I believe the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her.
What you just said is the sex stuff is fine.
It's not fine. I look back now and just like, he was lying. He was.
Now, remember, we've went through all of this. None of this is something that just has came out. We actually saw comments about this interview first in the reports we went over, which made it appear, we still didn't have the full picture until we heard the audio and we were able to hear how exactly the conversation, the interview went down with detectives. Look at these photos though, you guys. Oh my gosh.
Baking.
We can go even worse. She's pregnant.
No,
Have you ever found a pregnancy test at home?
I have 2 underneath the bathroom sink, but I haven't seen if they're still there.
Drop the link to this.
Joining us, an all-star panel to make sense of what we are learning now. Not only do we learn that Maddie Soto's mother, Jen Soto, has gotten a form of immunity. What was so important that the state needed from Jen Soto, that she's getting almost a free pass.
Almost a free pass. No, this is frustrating. And maybe I'm just like splitting hairs here, but she is not given almost a free pass. Mama Bear, it's not reliable. That's the thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. These are interviews and stuff directly from the state attorney's office. However, she wasn't almost given a free pass. It's just this one particular interview. Any information she gives in that interview, the April 18th interview, cannot be used against her. Anything else can. So let's say in the interview, whatever comes out separately, they find evidence that the two of them were sharing photos of Maddie and, the awful photos we know Stefan was taking. Let's say Jen was part of that. They could charge her. Let's say Jen was texting about that. They could charge her. Let's say something on the footage of him disposing of Maddie or whatever. We saw Jen there. They could use that and charge her. It is only that they cannot charge her based on the information she gives. You know what I mean? I saw that preschool granny, I think, which is what made me kind of want to do this. Right, Michelle. She just got it for that interview. Yep. Yeah, Mama Bear. And it kind of makes it seem as if it's more. We're going to keep listening. Hey, Chicken Lady. And then we're going to.
First, to Shannon Butler joining us, investigative reporter from WFTV 9. Shannon, thank you for being with us. What do you believe it is the state can get from Mom Jen Soto that's so valuable they would give her immunity from prosecution?
She didn't.
Well, they didn't tell us that they had any valuable information. What they said is they couldn't find anything that would connect her to any crime. So I think what they're doing is trying to use her to help with this case more than try to continue to go after her in case.
Thank you. This woman has some sense, but it's kind of overlooked. But they did tell local news they can't find any evidence to charge her, to connect her to this.
That hurts the case down the road. She at least knows his behavior. So she does provide them some information, but they told us they just didn't have enough to charge her with anything in any of these scenarios.
Shannon, nobody gets immunity ever from the state unless they've got something to add testimony-wise.
She just tried to explain to her, it's not that necessarily she had something to add. It's that they haven't found anything up to that point to connect her to all of this. No proof that she knew this was going on. So why not use her testimony to help build the case? Nope, Nancy wasn't hearing that at all.
If you cannot pin a crime on someone. If they're not connected to a crime, fine, don't prosecute them. But you
Yes,
don't have to
really
give them immunity.
if she
Listen.
has.
I said, you guys, I need a good night's sleep. I need to take my meds. I sent them to sleep upstairs in the guest bedroom so that I could get a good night's sleep. Um, I suggested that we all sleep together in the same bed together, but not the easiest person to sleep with. She rolls around, she punches, she kicks.
Now remember, there's redactions, so you kind of hear those bits of silence. She is going to halfway discuss derivative immunity, and then it very quickly she doesn't explain that she could still be charged with any other bits of information from their investigation, just not this. And it's a little confusing the way she does it, but
we have obtained crime scene photos. Jen Soto and her then live-in boyfriend were kicked out of the condo while police effected a search. We've obtained those photos. First, let's look at Maddie's room. Her room was essentially part of the downstairs living room, and it was essentially a bed cordoned off by this see-through partition there on the bottom level of the home. What more do we learn in the crime scene photos? Those boxers right there belong to Stefan Stern. They were pictured at, and that's Maddie's bedroom area. Those boxers in her laundry basket were pictured in the videos that were found on his phone. And then in the next photo, you see her bedding, Maddie Soto's bedding, which also appeared in the sex molestation videos on Stefan Stern's home, according to police. That bedding proves it happened in the home. So we now know that, according to police, and the murder happened in the home. It's extremely poignant that on her bed are her little stuffed animals. But to another shot, all of that bedding, of course, becomes state's exhibits. We believe this is another room where Stefan Stearns slept on occasion. And we know that the room where he slept with Maddie at her mother's direction had a lock on the door. And I mean, not just the kind that go with the doorknob, full on.
Yeah, so they're going through some of the pictures. These things have been out for quite a while now. We've kind of looked through a lot of the photos and just understand somewhat that there were other roommates there and the layout of the house and the rooms, but it is confusing a little. We know that he would stay in bedroom 4 sometimes, right? And that was upstairs, had a number 4 on it. Hey, Sarah. I don't really have a whole lot else to add besides we'll just continue watching and Alana, the locks, and discussing along the way, because it's going to be a process this morning. This is just our first stop. Jen Soto should have been charged right along with Stefan. Shaking my head. I think it's complete BS. A lot of people do think that it's complete BS, but according to police, they didn't have, enough evidence to connect her to a lot of the things. I guess, it's possible there could have been neglect or endangerment or some sort of charges like that. But as far as what was happening to Maddie and what inevitably ended up happening to her, I don't believe that Jen knew. There is no evidence to show that she knew what was going on, but yeah, Elena says, I still feel she's guilty of neglect. So she didn't say, okay, Kelsey, so what we'd have to go back to this interview because we went over this before. She said, I believed the sex stuff, but I just didn't believe that he had done something evil, like take her life. And these are my words. It's pretty much what she said, but not, word for word. And the officer was just like, what? Like, the sex stuff is evil, but she didn't say it wasn't. That was her way of wording that she believed that there had been a relationship between them, but she didn't believe that he had been the one to take her life.
On locks, you were seeing crime scene photos that we obtained from police files. Back to Shannon Butler joining us, WFTV 9. Shannon, many would argue that sending your daughter to go sleep with your adult live-in boyfriend is gross neglect that exposed her.
I mean, the public here in Central Florida has said over and over again, we don't understand. We don't understand how she's not held to any accountability in this situation.
Okay, so Preschool Granny says, as much as I adore you, Allie, I disagree. I feel strongly she knew she's that girl's mother. Well, I'm not saying she didn't know. I'm just saying that's what police have said as far as the evidence they found. I don't know. I can definitely see why people are frustrated and angry that this went on for so long and nobody was there to save Maddie from it, right? I just know this. There have been so many people that are viewers of the channel when we've talked about this that have said, it was happening to me and my mom didn't know. So I don't want to jump to conclusions without evidence, but I just want you guys to know one thing for certain. We don't have to agree. I don't want us to always agree. And I still adore you guys too, even when we disagree. Honestly, you might change my mind. I might change yours. Maybe not. We may walk away from it all feeling the same way that we felt initially. But at the end of the day, I'll never be upset when we don't agree. I don't know how I feel. I go back and forth. I'm really angry too. You guys have heard me rage over this case because it's unbelievable. It's bullshit. There was a lot of head in the sand, selfishness going on, self-absorption, like I've said before, and it is infuriating. And then especially when you hear from the teachers that she was doing so bad in school, she was missing school, she was late, she wasn't turning in her work, she was making D's and F's, her drawings, the things she was drawing. I mean, my God, if you don't know something's going on, then what are you doing? What are you doing? So I understand the frustration. I just want you guys to know that. All right, let's keep listening.
But like I've told you before, police just don't seem to have anything they want to charge her with.
And speaking of Mom Jen Soto's response after Maddie first goes missing, this is what she said.
When you guys showed me the picture of her, I believed the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her. I'm like, no, what if he did this stuff fine, but what if she's still missing out there? What if somebody took her? I still wanted to believe I believed him. I believed his whole story. So I was just like, I kept repeating that part. I'm just like, what if she did get dropped off? What if she got abducted? What if she's missing?
Okay, Shannon Butler joining me, investigative reporter, WFTV 9. Did I just hear Mommy correctly? She says, when you showed me the picture of her, which I think is a euphemism for her boyfriend, her daughter, and videoing it on his cell phone, I think that's the picture.
Yes, it is. Nancy is intense, man, isn't she? Which I get, I get why people are drawn to that, but okay. Alana says, in my opinion, Jen didn't know about the murder, but I do think she had some sense of the abuse and didn't care to look further. Whether you knew or not, it's your job to pay attention. Therefore, it's neglect. Well, I mean, think of the way that she described them snuggling up together, and stuff like that. Jen, hey, Bendy, Nancy gonna eat today. Oh my God. One thing I do like is Nancy's nicknames. Like Stefan is just living now. Yeah, she's definitely a little bit sassy. Hey, hippie chick, good morning, which is fine. But why do people call me when I'm trying to chat with my friends? There is nothing they need from her to convict him, Little Red says. Okay, Chicken Lady brings this up, which is interesting. The parent coin thing put in a different perspective for me. If Maddie thought they were in a relationship, then maybe she was keeping it quiet. Not that it's okay at all. Mom should have noticed. I don't disagree, Chicken Lady.
That she's talking about.
It
Quote,
is.
I believe the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe he had done anything evil to her.
Yeah, and you can hear from that interaction with those deputies, there was a lot of pause that they took, even after we talked about this later on, about why she didn't quite understand that what was happening there, at least in that interview, was evil and was wrong. There was a lot of concern about that in the beginning. That's what started them really trying to take a look to see if there was any involvement with
Yes.
Jen Soto and what had happened to Madeline Soto. It was that comment right there that kind of started that ball rolling.
She better have
Not
something
enough
explosive in
storage.
exchange for immunity, which means she will not be prosecuted for anything deriving from those statements that she gave under immunity. But that's not
See the way she explains it, and people,
all.
I just
Even
don't like.
after she
Hold on,
realizes
she's
police
gonna
are
go a little
focusing
more.
on her live-in, listen.
But that was me assuming that you guys had the wrong guy. I wanted to think he was a good guy still, but
I feel like she
he's not. After
intentionally
everything you
says
guys
it.
have
I don't know. Maybe
told me and have shown me, I know he's
in a way that is confusing for
the
me.
worst person on this face of the
You know
earth right
that
now.
now.
I started saying to him, like, I think they're focusing in on you. Like, we need to call your dad, and I think we need to get you a lawyer. I feel like they're focusing on the wrong person. And he kept saying the same thing. He kept repeating what I was repeating. That they're focusing on the wrong person.
Yes, Kay.
Okay. Raymond Giudice, veteran defense attorney, former prosecutor. The mom says, hey, live-in, they're focusing on you. We got to get you a lawyer pronto.
Which she did. You know, Jen said she was convinced that they were focusing on the wrong person at first. And even after, this is like the infuriating part, even after she was shown the photos, she thought, he needs an attorney to try to beat this because he's not the one who kidnapped her and took her life if she is no longer alive. Because at this point, you know, they weren't sure. As a matter of fact, the interview that Nancy's showing right there was just prior to Maddie being found. Yeah, he said, well, we're going to listen to that, Jen, because he says if there is, regarding the prior statements, if there is anything that doesn't line up to now, we won't go back and charge you for lying, basically, in those statements.
What? Okay. Whoa.
We're going to play it.
She knows her daughter's missing. She knows the boyfriend was last with the daughter. She knows the boyfriend somehow knows what the daughter's wearing when she goes missing. She's sending them to bed together when she wants a good night's sleep. How she could sleep through that, I do not know. But now, when police let it be known, he is the suspect, the prime suspect. She's saying, hey, honey, we got to get you a lawyer. I mean, my fingers are tingling. What I would do if someone touched the twins. And she's trying to get him a lawyer?
Nancy, clearly prosecution here, and I think not to attack these deputies, they should have had a much more experienced either assistant district attorney or a serious investigator that specializes in crimes against women and children. They did not need to do the statement this way and give her immunity. She hasn't been accused of anything. And I think that's the way it's going to be unless the prosecution, and it's a very high burden, can find evidence of a crime against her outside of this statement. And the burden shifts to the prosecution to prove that the statement did not lead to the finding of any new evidence. They had enough evidence on his phone alone to put him with a no bond, and that would be here in Atlanta, on the images, the child porn images on his phone. You let him sit, you let him stew, and you continue to investigate the case. But she's got immunity, and the prosecution, unless they know something else up their sleeve against her, she got that pass, Nancy.
See, I felt like he tried to explain it, but it still didn't really connect back. It was kind of like like circular. I don't know. And obviously, people took from this interview, and now I've been seeing videos, of people saying she has immunity. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Which
Get out of jail.
I sent them to sleep upstairs in the guest bedroom so that I could get a good night's sleep. I think we need to get you a lawyer. But that was me assuming that you guys had.
Okay, so we can come back to this, but I just want to kind of walk us through exactly what was said at the beginning of this interview at the state attorney's office. I'm going to drop the link for Grizzly. This is her video. This interview was from April the 18th, 2024. This is where the derivative use immunity comes in. Let's hear.
Good morning. We are at the state attorney's office in Kissimmee. It's 8:57 a.m. It is April 18th, 2024. I am William J. I am the division chief for the homicide unit. With me is Danielle Pinnell, also from the homicide unit in Kissimmee. Can the detectives identify themselves?
Detective Mark Morris.
Detective Kyle Smallwood. And with us is
Jennifer Soto.
with your attorney,
Matthew Spark.
All right. We went over some things before we went on the record. We told you had the opportunity to ask any questions that you needed to ask. If you need a break to consult with your attorney, that is absolutely fine. We'll all step out of the room, turn off your recorders, and let you exercise your constitutional right to have counsel. There's no problem with that. There's water fountains here. There's restrooms. I don't know if you're a smoker or not, but if you get desperate, we can make an outside break time, but we are kind of under time constraints.
Okay, so I just want to read Riley's comment, and then we're going to just keep listening to this beginning of this. She says, I think Nancy 100% understands the immunity stuff law-wise. She's intentionally misleading her viewers for the sake of drama. I agree, because number one, the defense attorney somewhat tries to explain it in a way that makes sense, but she kind of doesn't go deeper into that at all. It just switches and then back to case details that get people riled up. You have more clips of Jen Soto, talking about the photos and getting him an attorney and not doing the evil stuff, quote. It's like it was mentioned, but in this slick undercover way. And then people take that and run with it and think, and then they get outraged. It's pretty crazy. And it makes you think, so much of that is what the internet is. A lot of times people don't wait for the actual facts to come out. So many of these big situations or big dramas surrounding these cases and stuff goes from people not really knowing 100% what's going on, just kind of getting outraged or emotional and taking something and running with it. And yeah, it gets bad. And then we don't know the facts of the situation. People are confused. It's frustrating. I don't like it. Okay. Yeah, Grizzly. I love Grizzly.
With that all said, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All right. This is an investigative subpoena.
Also, that video went up 13 hours ago. And K-Brace, thank you for the point. She starts it with breaking news. Jen Soto's been given immunity. And the title, it's just super misleading. Sorry, but
we've been compelled to be here. And in our country, under the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment as applied to you under the Florida Constitution as well, you cannot be forced to incriminate yourself. So anything you say today can't and won't be used against you unless you just don't tell us the truth. And I've already explained to your attorney, Mr. Bark, whether or not you've made any inconsistent statements in the past, that is dirt under the bridge. And either a misdemeanor was committed or it wasn't. But we're not going to be using that as a basis of some sort of perjury by false statements, because those other charges wouldn't be perjury anyways. So the most important thing today is to tell the truth. I also explained derivative use immunity, which means if you said that there was a gun, and obviously there's no gun in this case, buried in your attorney's yard, we couldn't go dig up that gun if you told us that, oh yeah, there's the gun that was used is right there. We wouldn't be able to do that. We would have to show that we learned all those things independently from this interview. Okay? Do you have any questions?
So I think he explains it pretty well. It's still honestly pretty confusing for a normal person who doesn't, even for us who we talk true crime and, stuff surrounding law stuff on the regular. But yeah. Patricia says, Allie, even when the facts come out, people call corruption from the cops. Some folks will jump on anything for content like landfill rats. That's so true. Now, let me tell you, here's the fact. These are the facts about this interview. This was a while later. They had to subpoena her to show up. She did show up with the defense attorney. Okay. Those are just the facts. Now, let's go back to Nancy's video for just a few minutes, and then I want to go and show you a little more about Nancy, something that was posted long ago, back in 2005, and from an old blog that B Crumbs found. And B Crumbs, you could put the channel name in here, or the attorney's channel if you want in here. That would be awesome. Hey, Amber. Hey, Humanimal. No, the video, you're right, Humanimal. The video with the sofa is not the interview she had immunity for. As Nancy would know, yet she shows it in conjunction with her show. You're right, Humanimal. Thank you for pointing that out. And this video was right before Maddie was found on the 1st of March, this interview, which I mentioned that a few minutes ago, but this immunity interview was April 18th. So thank you for pointing that out. Okay.
The wrong guy, not that he had done all this to her.
The most important thing today is to tell the truth. I also explained derivative use immunity, which means if you said that there was a gun, and obviously there's no gun in this case, buried in your attorney's yard, we couldn't go dig up that gun if you told us that, oh yeah, there's the gun that was used is right there. We wouldn't be able to do that. We would have to show that we learned all those things independently from this interview.
It's called derivative use immunity. Lawyers love to make everything sound so complicated, and they also like to throw in Latin phrases, so be ready for that. Derivative use immunity. Immunity is like an immunization, right? That protects you from, let's just say, the measles or the mumps vaccine. She explains it. Immunity in this case means immunity from prosecution in exchange for your statement. Derivative use immunity means you can't be prosecuted from anything that comes from your statement. That is what derivative use immunity means. In a nutshell, Ray, yes, no.
Yes, absolutely. I would have charged
I think you couldn't do it in one word.
Now they're going to just go on and keep talking about the case and not explain, but you can be charged if they find evidence from anywhere else, which I feel like this is where she should have included that. You can be charged if they find evidence in her cell phone, in the pictures. Listen to how they just kind of.
You owe me $1. Okay. Yes. All right. Now, Ray, I want you to hear the bit that we've managed to obtain. Then I'll bring in the rest of the panel. We've gotten some of her new statement.
The bit you've managed to obtain, like the whole damn interview isn't released. Okay.
That she gave after getting immunity. For those of you just joining us, Maddie Soto was
exactly, Jen,
for years,
exactly,
under her own mother's roof by mommy's part-time live-in. When I say part-time, the rest of the time, he lived in his own mother's house. Okay.
Okay, so Jen, exactly. That was what I was thinking too when I watched this by myself before the live. She was right, and she explained most of it, right? But she did not explain what evidence could be used, which I think would have really helped people have a better idea of kind of what was going on there. I don't know. I just didn't like that. And then Tess, so from that, yes, from that specific interview on the 18th, but he also said they would not be going back to her old statements. Like if she tells something in this interview that makes an old statement now appear to be false, they wouldn't go back and charge for that either. And then anything that was derived from that interview. Okay, so maybe we'll come back and look at this in a second, but I want to show you this. This was quite interesting. Okay. 1 second, you guys. Okay. They can use it. They can also use anything they find outside of that interview. Right. If she lied about anything in that interview and they find out, they can use it. They can also use anything they find outside of that interview. Hey, Princess Scary. Okay, so this is old. It's from 2005. This is, Bikrams, did you share the attorney's link? Let me get that from here. Pam Esquire, the Law Intellect is her name. And she shared this and she said, did y'all know Nancy Grace was a former prosecutor in Fulton County? She also was reprimanded by the Georgia Supreme Court for withholding evidence. Now, I can verify, I don't even know what, this is an online magazine, crime, political justice magazine, whatever, an old blog, it appears to be. So, it's an opinion piece. But there are some things cited, but I want to read this to you. Hold on, let me just see. Right, but if she said in those prior statements, look in his secret computer that he has hidden at the same location, and they got it, and she's on it participating, she can be charged because of the evidence found on the computer. But that's interesting. If she points to that evidence, she could still be charged. That's kind of confusing. Thank you, B-Crumbs. Okay. In an opinion written by Bush recess appointee William Pryor, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals has upheld a murder conviction against the defendant, notwithstanding findings that prosecutor Nancy Grace played fast and loose with the rules. Let's see. And then they insert this here. This says Monday's decision by the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a triple murder conviction won by Grace, explaining that her actions didn't change the result of the trial. It is the third time appellate courts have admonished Grace for her conduct as a prosecutor in Georgia. Grace served as an assistant district attorney in Fulton from 1987 to 1996, leaving that year to join Court TV as a commentator. The three-judge panel on Monday criticized Grace for not following her obligations to disclose to the defendant's lawyer information about other possible suspects. The 11th Circuit also agreed with a magistrate who found it hard to believe that Grace did not knowingly use a detective's false testimony that there were no other suspects. What kind of message? And then the opinion piece. Oh, dude, I'm totally plugged in. My cord is just ridiculous. So their opinion, the person who's writing this, they write, part of this is their opinion, but they're inserting parts from another article. They wrote, what kind of message does this send to prosecutors other than you can break the rules and get away with it? And then they insert something else, which says, Grace on Tuesday denied hiding that other people might have been involved with the crime, noting one of her witnesses said so in open court. While some of the comments of the court are hurtful to me, she added, I am thankful for the unanimous decision keeping the verdict intact. Stevens' lawyer, G. Terry Jackson of Savannah's Jackson and this particular law firm, said he was disappointed with the ruling and would consider asking the full 11th Circuit or U.S. Supreme Court to review the case. It's very clear Mr. Stevens did not receive a free trial. Stevens' original trial lawyer, a public defender, called the court's description of Grace as playing fast and loose with ethical rules as an understatement. So apparently they're quoting the court said she was playing fast and loose with ethical rules. Stephen Gillers, a legal ethics professor from New York University School of Law, wrote in an email that Grace's actions regarding the detective were serious because submitting false sworn testimony to a court is probably the gravest violation of legal ethics. Nancy Grace's prior admonition, I cannot say that word. She's been admonished before from the court and her prior, and that includes admonitions. I cannot say that word. Please forgive me, you guys. In 1997, the Georgia Supreme Court skewered Grace for her actions in prosecuting Weldon Wayne Carr for allegedly setting fire to his house and murdering his wife. Carr later was freed when Fulton prosecutors waited too long to bring him up for a retrial. When the court reversed Carr's 94 conviction for other reasons, the justices said Grace withheld evidence entitled to the defense and made improper opening statements and closing arguments. We conclude that the conduct of the prosecuting attorney in this case demonstrated her disregard of the notions of due process and fairness and was inexcusable, wrote the Chief Justice Robert Benham in Carr v. State 267, Georgia 701 in 1997. Now, in 1994, the Georgia High Court voted 6-1 to reverse a heroin trafficking conviction won by Grace because she, quote, exceeded the wide latitude of closing argument, unquote, by referring to drug-related murders and serial rape, which were not at issue. And this is Bell v. State in 1994. Nancy's reaction is one of apples and oranges. It's a lifetime of work, she said, noting that she decided to become a lawyer after her fiancé was murdered. Judge Pryor's nomination was stalled in the Senate after initial approval by the Senate Judiciary Committee. He is one of the extremist judges whose nomination was rejected by the full Senate, but who Bush resubmitted to Congress for confirmation and blah, blah, blah. If you want more information, the link that B Crumbs dropped, I know that in her members only, she did a live kind of going through some of this. She is an attorney. And yeah, so she's the one who posted it, where it came from. It's interesting. She's been in trouble for misconduct when she was prosecuting a few times. Okay. I used to love Nancy. I really started watching her because of Scott Peterson. As I got older and now in my 40s, I don't watch that trash. You know, we could probably go a little deeper in some of these cases that were cited here. I don't know if that's something I'm a little interested in doing it. I don't know if you guys would be. Her Woody Allen comment definitely says she was worried about something. Sorry, I had to get a drink. It's hard to talk so much without a drink. Patricia says, I can't believe she's not being charged with trafficking. From her own comments about the Woody Allen situation, she is at least guilty of turning a blind eye. Nancy is nothing but a tabloid reporter. Well, I mean, this, like I said, the video started with, hold on, let me go back. We were at 12:30. Let's watch this again.
Breaking news tonight, murdered Maddie Soto, just 13 years old. Mommy gets immunity? Good evening.
Breaking news tonight. No, it's not breaking news. All this stuff has been out for a while now, and it's not immunity. Like, see what I mean? This is frustrating. People might just watch the first 2 minutes and then, oh my gosh, Jen Soto has immunity. It's breaking news. You know, that's what happens. It actually did happen. the derivative use only applies to that specific statement. They said they wouldn't charge her for lying in prior statements. I've listened to that part 11 billion times. I was listening for a loophole. Cutie Pie says there's a lot of dirt on Nancy Grace. All you have to do is Google her. Hey, Pinche Becky. Thank you guys for being here. Oh my gosh, I just have not been feeling super great the last couple of days. So I'm feeling a lot better now, though, and happy to be here with you guys to kind of discuss some of this. But I think we should. I'm interested because she brings that crap up on every episode. I think we should too then, because I'm interested in it. I want to know, if there is misconduct and things like that. Let me see what she said again, how she worded that. Dishonesty. I mean, she has a huge platform. It's kind of like, I don't know, you have a really big responsibility when you have a platform at all, period. When you're putting in for, even if you don't have a platform, if you're publishing videos to the public, you have a responsibility, right? To be fair and honest. And if you have a huge platform, you definitely have a big responsibility to do it right. And at the end of the day, this isn't just fucking college sports we're talking about. This is the murder of a child who was tortured for years before her life was taken. I think that we all, including me, need to really think about what we put out there regarding that kind of stuff. But she said, did y'all know Nancy Grace was a former prosecutor in Fulton County? I think that's Atlanta. She also was reprimanded by the Georgia Supreme Court for withholding evidence. You have a responsibility when you're delivering information to the public regarding a true crime case to do it ethically and truthfully. I totally agree. I like Nancy Grace, but she is the 80s cop show of the legal world. And it just break through and worry about the consequences later. Well, breaking news. I mean, these things haven't been released for like 2 months now, at least. Let me see when Grizzly published this interview. Well, 2 months ago, actually. If you look here, 2 months ago. So it's not breaking news. None of this is new, but it makes people think, even people who watched this come out 2 months ago, even me, when I saw, I'd seen the creator Bullhorn Betty had a live that said Jen Soto had immunity. I clicked on it, and I think it said breaking news too. And then she was like, yeah, I just heard on Nancy Grace. So I'm like, oh my gosh, is there something new that's came out? And then I go to Nancy Grace and I'm like, wait, the same thing we've been talking about for 2 months? Like, I don't know. It's just frustrating. And that's how we got here. That is how we got here. Torty says, Nancy is a sensationalist. It's in her interest to pull in viewers like the top YouTube tragedy pimps like BHP. Nancy and everyone else aware of Maddie still feels more grief or outrage than Maddie's mother. Little Red, I have the audio of all of those interviews. I did a little Maddie video. She is 13 forever now. So sad. Now I need to investigate. I need to know more. Me too. Well, maybe we will. If we find anything, I'll let you know. Okay, I thought so. Is a portion of Atlanta. Amber, yes. I told last night. I don't know if you saw it. I think it was in Melissa's or Jen's, one of the two. But I'd ask you if you know when you're coming back yet. Breaking news. All right, let's just listen to a little bit more of this I actually really like this local reporter. I think she does a great job at keeping it factual. She tried to check her at the beginning, no, they actually said they don't have any other evidence to charge her with or whatever. So let's listen here. Do you think Jen Soto will reach out to Stephen Stearns after trial or when his case is years old? I feel like she won't fully let go of him. I pray she doesn't, but if she did, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, Violet, I'm like you. I would not be surprised. I really wouldn't. Maybe though now after things have really sunk in, she feels differently, but when we see how she reacted to first seeing those photos and stuff and still being kind of forgiving toward, clicked on BHB this morning too because of her breaking news. I turned it off quickly. She's really very ill-informed, and just now hearing about the 35,000 images. Oh my gosh. Listen, you guys know we've went through it a bunch. There are so many documents out there, so many interviews. There is so much information. You can really get a great idea of the facts that they have so far, at least what they've released, by going through those documents and those interviews. But you have to take the time to go through it. You know what I mean? You can't just hear on Nancy Grace because she's not telling it straight the way it is in a way that your average person can consume it and know what's going on. All right, let's just listen randomly here.
For 2022 that you and Stefan kind of break up,
Yes.
but he still remains in the townhome.
Yes.
Why is that?
So even though you're broken up, I still considered him one of my best friends. I wanted to give him the opportunity to live there, and he had just gotten a job at Disney and was doing well.
Okay.
And I didn't want him to continue to lose that because he had been struggling for a long time to get a job or do anything with his own mental health issues.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give him a chance to do something, be something.
Okay, let me understand something. Shannon Butler joining me, WFTV 9. Does Stefan Stearns have a job at Disney with children? Or is this more like a Top Mom Casey Anthony thing where she tells her whole family she works at Universal and even wears the uniform, but she really just sits on the sofa and eats chips all day when they leave? Did he really have a job at Disney?
Look what I found. Okay, so this is Los Angeles Times, an article from 2005. Grace under fire. Let's look at it. There's something alarming about Nancy Grace. The naturally angry prosecutor turned television personality who now fumes through a primetime hour on CNN's stolid but usually respectable headline news channel. Is that HLN? It isn't just the habitual snarl, the narrowed eyes, or the improbably arched brows. It isn't the name calling. God knows that's become as ubiquitous a feature of cable news as that irritating crawl. It isn't even the sneer, though that deserves special attention as the rhetorical equivalent of a black hole, an aberration in the fabric of normality, where the awful weight of absolute certainty seems to overpower mere gravity. What's alarming isn't so much what happens on her nightly broadcast, but what's absent, things like balance, sobriety, fairness, and independent judgment, qualities that used to rate at least a passing nod from the employees of mainstream news organizations. Even Fox's Bill O'Reilly has a mind flexible enough to turn in an unexpected direction now and then. Not Grace, whose on-air persona suggests what might have eventuated if Scarlett O'Hara had enjoyed a fling with Thomas de Torquemada. Apparently, there's a new media niche, a vicious blonde, and somewhat near its apex, alongside an inexcusable Ann Coulter, sits Grace, one-time prosecutor in Atlanta's Fulton County District Attorney's Office and self-described victim's advocate. Now, as is well known, the only unchallengeable moral authority in American society today is that of victims. And, as her official CNN biography points out, Grace herself is one of them. Let's see. Talk about her tragedy. Her fiance was killed during a robbery. This made her become a prosecutor. 9 years later, she joined Court TV. And more recently has emerged as the top draw in headline news' new primetime lineup. CNN proudly describes Grace as one of television's most respected legal analysts and is happy to provide interested parties with a detailed account of her legal education and career, right down to her stint as a business law instructor in Georgia State University School of Business. There is, however, one inconveniently disturbing detail on which CNN maintains a studied silence. On 3 occasions involving 3 separate cases, appellate courts have cited Grace for unethical behavior while she was a Fulton County prosecutor. The most recent of those admonitions, don't know if that's still that word, came last week when a published opinion from the U.S. 11th Circuit Court of Appeals concurred with lower court findings that Grace had, quote, played fast and loose, unquote, with her ethical duties as a prosecutor in a 1990 triple murder case. The lower courts had admonished Grace for failing to disclose the existence of other suspects in the case and for knowingly allowing a police detective to testify falsely regarding the matter. The appeals court, however, also concurred that her misconduct did not affect the outcome of the case. So here's another source for a lot of that same information, which I'm glad that I found. I probably should have found it before. Honestly, let me link this to you guys. It's not over yet, though, so hold up. But I do, the first one, that's just a blog, the Los Angeles Times, where they have directly quoted the same things. I don't know. It just gives a little more to the story. Writing for a unanimous 3-judge panel, Justice William Pryor Jr. wrote that the lower courts were right to uphold the defendant's conviction, quote, despite the failure of the prosecutor to fulfill her responsibilities, unquote. The 11th Circuit, by the way, is the nation's most conservative, and Pryor, a former Alabama attorney general, is sitting as a recess appointment because his is one of President Bush's nominations to the federal court that Senate Democrats are threatening to block. Let's see. In 1997, the Georgia State Supreme Court overturned a conviction Grace had won in the case of a man accused of arson and murder, so an overturned murder conviction. It did turn on other issues, it said. The reversal turned on other issues. The court found that she had withheld evidence to which the defense was entitled and had made improper opening and closing statements. Writing for the majority, Chief Justice Robert Benham noted that Grace's conduct, quote, in this case demonstrated her disregard of the notions of due process and fairness was inexcusable, unquote. That's a huge deal. That's crazy. In 1994, a 6-1 majority of Georgia's highest court also overturned the conviction of a heroin trafficker she prosecuted, again citing her for making an improper final argument. Is any of this relevant to her work on CNN as a commentator? Jane Kirtley, a professor of law and journalism at the University of Minnesota, I can't say like a Minnesota, like I'm from there. She says, I think it is, partly because Nancy Grace holds herself out as a great champion of truth, justice, and the American way. Moreover, prosecutors have an ethical duty to seek justice and not simply win cases. Quote, CNN's justification for putting her on the air as a commentator is her career as a prosecutor, and that makes her ethical conduct then highly relevant to the work she's doing now. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is relevant to her having a show, like her show, like the one we're just watching clips of, where, she talks about these big cases that are currently happening as someone who is a prosecutor who very frequently references her time being prosecutor? That's a huge deal, Patricia said. I think so too. That's kind of crazy. In an interview with Cox News Service last month, the executive vice president who runs Headline News, said that Grace, quote, is not pretending to be a traditional journalist. She brings an ex-practitioner's point of view. That, coupled with her passion and her interest in victims' rights, makes her unique and compelling to watch. Now we're getting a little closer to the heart of the matter. The article says, Jouts declined to be interviewed for this column, but in a statement issued through a CNN spokeswoman said, Nancy had a great deal of success as a prosecutor and has never once been disciplined or reprimanded by the state bar. She is very proud of her record, and it speaks for herself. No ethical agonizing or soul-searching there, and here's why. According to Wednesday's primetime ratings, Grace's 536,000 viewers puts her second in the crucial 8 p.m. hour behind Fox's Bill O'Reilly, who had an audience of 2,500,000, but ahead of CNN's Paula Zahn with 467,000 viewers, and ahead of MSNBC, who was watched by 298,000. In fact, among CNN's entries in the primetime record, or in the primetime period, Grace trails only Larry King and Newsnight, the latter, by a scant 59,000 viewers. After her most recent admonishment, Grace told a reporter for the Fulton County Daily Report that she had prosecuted more than 100 jury trials during her 9 years in Atlanta. Some considerable number of those verdicts still must be under appeal. How many citations of ethical misconduct will it take before CNN feels some obligation to at least inform its viewers of these facts concerning its star commentator's credentials? We know it's not 3, but what about 5? How about 10? Maybe 25? Does the number exist? As long as they remain silent on this question, it's fair to assume that, like Nancy Grace, the prosecutor, the executives at CNN play fast and loose with their ethical obligations. Wow. The Los Angeles Times was not happy with Nancy Grace. They wanted people to know that she had been in trouble or been admonished multiple times for her work as a prosecutor. And yeah, I had no damn idea. Hey, Joneson. One can't trust a liar ever again, and what Nancy Grace has done is tantamount to dishonesty. Not only should Nancy Grace be under fire for this, the channel that platformed her for anything more than a crime entertainment show should not be trusted. It's not news, it's entertainment. That's exactly what it is, Riley. It isn't, and that is so sad, because at the end of the day, it's real people. And you guys watching us, me, we're real people. We all get deeply invested in this stuff. Like, you guys, I know. Many of you, and I have, because we've talked about it, we have lost sleep over the things that were being done to Maddie. It's something that you can't shake when you look at it deep enough, when you start going through all the documents, all the evidence, all the interviews. So you're talking about things that people care very much about, that involve real people. I don't know. I think it's important not to do like shocking clickbait. Why? The truth is bad enough. Why do you have to like fluff it up with all the bullshit? I don't get it. Hey, Always Street. In my opinion, I think Jennifer Soto knew, considering how she handled when law enforcement told her first part, then combine that with her Woody Allen comment, leads me to at least think she knew. Well, thank you, Always Street. And look, when we are discussing like the facts of this, if it's not an actual fact, it's always good to put in my opinion. So instead of like maybe saying something like Jen knew, she was part of it, instead of just a statement like that, you would just say, in my opinion. I think that it keeps it a little like from being confusing for people who might not know all the details yet. At least they will know that this isn't, because I've seen a lot of statements regarding this case that aren't true, but be said as if they're facts or something in the documents and the case files, and it's not, you know what I mean? So, hey, Becky. Completely agree, and still very relevant for the nonsense they continue to publish. As for Nancy G. and Jennifer Coffindaffer, I lost all respect for both. They became too click and like focused. I cannot believe with Jennifer Coffindaffer. I cannot get over it. I used to, like, when I first started like watching and being part of these live communities that talk about true crime and seeing her on some of these interviews, it was before she had a channel or anything. And I don't know, I guess just because she's retired FBI or ex-FBI agent, you think you trust her. That is such a silly, it's a mistake I will never make again. I don't care. And it's with this situation too. I don't care if you're a former prosecutor. Like, you have to show me that you're good at this point. And even with LawTube and stuff, because like we were talking about Delphi or any true crime that's kind of going through the court process, you know, I really like to watch over hear from different attorneys who are talking about it. But then again, you know, there are good and bad in every profession. We just have to remember that. I don't look at Nancy as a prosecutor or a legal expert. I see her as entertainment. That's it. I hate clickbait. Whether you think he's guilty or not, Nancy was part of the trial by media for Scott Peterson, in my opinion, before he got a chance to get to court. Amber, I would love to look deep. I would love to go back and look at some of that, like some of her coverage of that. You should do it when you come back. Did you say? Because I'm awful about, like, when I'm live asking something and then I don't catch the response. Let me see. Oh, yeah, Violet. She is on a couple documentaries. The Cyber Sleuths, I think it's called. I don't know if Amber said when she was coming back, but when you do, that would be honestly really interesting to go over. I know this is a controversial question, but has any media confirmed if she was or was not pregnant? Riley, no, not from media. Now, we know from, well, even from this interview here that we were just watching, the April 18th, when Jen comes in with her defense attorney, she's subpoenaed. She has to show up to the state attorney's office. She does this little deal where she speaks to them and she has to be completely honest. It does come up. At this point, they've had a while, right, to look at some of the evidence, to get different test results and stuff back. They do talk about her missing her period. You know, so I don't know. It's not been confirmed 100%. This interview, though, really truly led me to believe she probably was. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Maddie was used and abused for most of her life, and Angie is one of those who is now using her after her death. It's disgusting. She is ex-FBI, which shocks me. In my opinion, Vinny P has turned into the same, all about popularity, just my thoughts. So I keep meaning to watch him, but like on certain subjects, but then I end up missing it. I haven't watched him a ton lately. Not sure when I'm coming back, but soon. Still finding my footing in the newborn trenches. Aw. No, I don't think you're being ugly. Little Red. Wasn't Coffindaffer involved with the agricultural branch of the FBI? I've never heard that before, but let's see if I can find anything. Let's go back to Nancy's video. I like this local reporter, and I'll try to find
So there was a lot of confusion about that. So he didn't have a job at Disney at the time. He didn't have a job at the time. But there were reports that he had previously worked at Disney because there was a woman who said, oh, I met him. We started dating because I met him when we worked at Disney. But when we had reached out to Disney when this case first came about, Disney's like, he never worked here. So there was a lot of confusion of whether or not he worked there or not. We still don't really know. I mean, we know what the women said. We met him when we all worked at Disney.
Okay.
But Disney claims
I got a question. Allie Neal, you got to help me. You hear Shannon Butler, WFTV 9. What is with women? A guy says, oh, yeah. Let's see. I'm a brain surgeon and I work at Mount Sinai. What? You don't check that out? You bring a guy into your home and let him physically sleep with your little girl night after night after night, and you don't check him out? This guy didn't work at Disney any more than I do.
Honestly, in this day and age, Nancy, it shocks me that anybody doesn't do a deep dive background check on any new person coming into their life.
Yes, agree. All right, so let's switch gears for a second. I found a couple interesting things. I found an article from Atlanta from 1996 about Nancy Grace. So we might take a look at that in a second. But first, I also found this. So this is Jennifer Coffindaffer. It's a website called Eagle Security Group. And it has her listed here. Now I'm going to read what it says about her. It says, areas of expertise. Let me just read the paragraph. All right. So Miss Coffindaffer's career in federal law enforcement spanned over 28 years and included extensive investigative, operational, leadership, and training experiences. As a special agent with the FBI, she specialized in gang, narcotics, organized crime, Title III electronic surveillance and counterintelligence investigations. She participated in numerous high-profile arrest operations and led nationally recognized investigations involving crime, weapons of mass destruction, and counterterrorism matters. Her leadership of investigations resulted in the disruption of the Crips criminal street gang in Fort Worth, Texas, and the dismantlement of a Medellin cartel cell responsible for distributing thousands of kilos of cocaine throughout the Midwest. In addition, she worked multiple undercover assignments and managed and conducted numerous covert counterintelligence investigations in nuclear counterproliferation arena, whatever the heck that means. A tactical operator on the FBI's Houston, Dallas, and San Juan's SWAT teams, Ms. Coffindaffer is an accomplished and certified FBI police tactical and firearms instructor who provides firearms and tactics instruction. She does self-defense, marksmanship, tactical use of force, active shooter, self-defense, and terrorism awareness to civilians. She teaches that stuff. She's testified on more than 200 occasions before federal grand juries. She's consulted on different television projects for CBS, NBC, blah, 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 all these different news places. So apparently, gangs and narcotics are her areas of expertise. Not necessarily murder. But I guess when you're doing gang stuff and cartel stuff, that would be part of it. Annie says, I have no idea how this experts keep going on her show. She is so disrespectful to them. Oh my gosh, she is. She really is. It's frustrating. The agriculture department. Yeah, same. I've gone off, Finny. It's all about views. Yes, Violet, she does have a YouTube channel now. She does. It started by her just being like a consultant for like News Nation, talking about cases, or Fox News or whatever. But now she has a YouTube channel. Yes. And she had, for instance, Dog the Bounty Hunter on to talk about Sebastian. And Dog was on with, wasn't he on with Seth and Tony? I don't know if that's where he calls him the wrong name. No, I think that was on News Nation. God, I don't know. It's been so much. But yeah, she definitely has a channel. Now, let's look at this article about Nancy Grace from 1996. Look at these pictures of her. Wow. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today and just like kind of looking around at all of this stuff. Kind of hanging out and making sense of things, but also kind of getting the message across of exactly what was going on with Jen Soto. And it's kind of shifted into looking at these people's backgrounds, but honestly, it's important to do. There are times when Nancy Ann Grace dreads the darkness. The nightmares are especially vivid when the veteran Fulton County prosecutor literally takes her work to bed with her, snuggling up to the reports of murders, rapes, and other violent crimes until she dozes off with the gruesome details of another horror coursing through her mind. Sometimes she must suffer through a blood-stained reenactment, rendered powerless as another innocent person is victimized. Other times she finds herself being pursued by a defendant, only to wake up drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. Sometimes I just can't keep from bawling, she says over lunch on a summer day in her buck head, her long blonde hair falling over her gym shirt. The stories just break my heart. How could they not break my heart? I don't ever want to get to the point where they don't break my heart. In a job in which callousness and detachment often are wielded like psychological shields against the incessant barrage of human tragedy, Atlanta's most feared prosecutor is defined as much by her need to feel vulnerable as her determination to be strong. Grace, who has forged an undefeated record over almost a decade, including the 1994 murder conviction of Hastings Nature and Garden Center owner Weldon Wayne Carr, embraces her cases with a degree of emotional intimacy and intensity that blurs the line between prosecutor and victim. With Nancy, it's always personal, says Atlanta defense attorney Renee Rockwell, a longtime friend. Her victims are like members of her family, and her cases are like crusades. Although the petite Southern belle with a soft drawl endeavors to maintain a sugary disposition, her kinetic workaholic existence is constantly awash in the pathos of those who have been victims. Working nights and most weekends and rarely taking vacations, she pursues her cases with a missionary zeal while getting caught up in the details of all those shattered lives. It's written in a very dramatic way. I have to read it that way. What a work of fiction. Her daily life is replete with examples of her need to feel close to victims, such as the Tiffany pin that often dangles on a silk string around her neck. It was a gift from the family of murdered businessman Stephen Hines. After the conviction in his 1983 slaying was overturned on appeal, Grace gained a second conviction in 1994. The victim's sister said, now this is good, she said, we had a sense that Nancy truly understood what we were going through. We felt like she was fighting for us. Then talks about her fiance. So, wow, this is an article from 96. Oh, okay. So, although powerful members of the local Republican Party tried to convince her to run for district attorney this year, Nancy, who is a Democrat, insists she cannot imagine a job would be as fulfilling as prosecuting violent criminals. So they wanted her to run for district attorney. I'm going to drop the link. I'm not going to read it all. It's a super long article, and it's so hard to read so much like that. So, since it's not really relevant to the case or anything, let's just watch a little more of this, and then I'll probably let you guys go.
Especially if they have children. It's just unfathomable to me that people don't go to Google and figure this stuff out. But also, there might have been nothing on Google that would have told her that he was a problem. He could put on his LinkedIn that he worked at Disney, and unless she called for a reference check, how would she know for sure? Or ask for his Disney ID, maybe.
Go to Disney? You think I haven't been to my husband's office? Oh, yes, I have. There's more.
Yeah.
There's more about the breakup and mommy deciding for some reason, some obscure reason, he should stay there because of his fake job. There's more.
So now you've broken up with Stefan in December of 2022, right?
Mm-hmm. I hate that picture so much. I wish they wouldn't use that. And I don't even know. I very seriously doubt they know that this photo was taken one day prior to the first incident in his indictment for not for her murder, for the separate case of all the pictures and stuff. The very first one, this picture was posted 1 day prior to that. Now, it doesn't mean that was the first incident, because I believe there's many incidents that he's not charged for. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up any other way, in my opinion, after going through all the documents and everything. It really does appear there were other incidents than what he's been charged for. Remember the calendar, how I marked the dates on the calendar and showed you guys like all the dates in his charges? I do believe there were other incidents, and I think that we pretty much figured out there were a couple other ones from maybe the reports that came out after. I don't know. I got to think about it. There's been so much.
He's still paying rent, and he's there full time in bedroom number 4. Is that where he goes after you break up?
No, he stayed in my room for a few months. We've broken up, but we weren't sure how to discuss it with Maddie because it was the middle of the school year, and I didn't want to affect her in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So we just played it off, acted like everything was normal and fine for the first 6 months. And then eventually she caught on. And then once she did, we admitted to her that we were broken up. And then, at that point is when he moved up to bedroom 4.
Okay, Tom Smith, former NYPD co-host of Gold Shields podcast. Tom.
Let's see what old Tom has to say about this.
Isn't that taking the charade a little too far? Did you hear? For the first 6 months, how long was she going to give him? He slept in her bed after the breakup because he was her, quote, best friend. What is wrong with this?
Well, she enabled everything that happened in this situation to happen.
Now, I really do like to hear from ex-law enforcement because Duty Rons appears to be pretty surprised that she hasn't been charged. So
she didn't check him out. He's a predator. He is an evil person that just preyed on her daughter. And she just shrugged it off. I mean, you hear the way she talks and her just calmness of everything going on. Part of interviews, Nancy, as you know, is getting the information, but also observing how it's being talked about and how it's being given to you. And those are signs that should lead detectives looking more into what her actions are and what she knows and what the enabling part of this situation was her fault.
Ray Giudice, I agree with Tom Smith, but did you hear what she said, Raymond? And by the way, you are seeing crime scene photos that we have obtained from the police investigation. Ray Giudice, she said he paid rent.
Nancy, look, dysfunctional family is not a crime. Mm-hmm. She hasn't been charged with anything. She hasn't been indicted. And again, I agree with what detectives.
I don't like the boxers in there.
Smith just said he and I have done shows with you together. I have a lot of respect for him, but that's not a crime. And somewhere in that interview, if the detectives felt that they were stumbling or about to stumble on a crime, they should have terminated that interview, retracted and cut off the immunity at that point, gone up to the DA's office, and gotten a charge against her, but they don't have one. And they're probably not gonna have.
Wait, what? I gotta hear that again.
Crime. And anything.
If they felt she was getting close to admitting to a crime, they should stop the interview. That's a kind of interesting and weird case.
She said he paid rent.
Nancy, look, dysfunctional family is not a crime. She hasn't been charged with anything. She hasn't been indicted. And again, I agree with what Detective Smith just said. He and I have done shows with you together. I have a lot of respect for him, but that's not a crime. And somewhere in that interview, if the detectives felt that they were stumbling or about to stumble on a crime, they should have terminated that interview, retracted and cut off the immunity at that point, gone up to the DA's office and gotten a charge against her, but they don't have one, and they're probably not gonna have one. And again, I'll go back to it again. She didn't have a lawyer to negotiate this immunity, and they just handed it over.
Please join us on our mission to find.
She didn't have a lawyer to negotiate this immunity, and they just handed it over.
Yes, she did. She did have a lawyer. Her attorney was there. Oh, my God. Her attorney was there for the interview. She was subpoenaed. She showed up with the defense attorney. It's really simple. The information's been out for months. I don't understand. It's just frustrating. Ugh. Let's see what else she's going to get to.
Just afraid of her getting assaulted.
Excuse me, Jackie, is my earpiece working? Because I'm pretty sure, Shannon Butler, I heard the mom saying, no, you cannot sleep over a little friend's house because I don't know the dad and I wouldn't want you to get sex assaulted.
I know. Every time we listen back to these interviews, we find something else that we're like, what did she just say? She claims to not have known about the abuse in her own home. This is always what struck me. Look at this picture, Nancy, that you just put up there. His boxer shorts in her hamper. I always wondered why there wasn't a question by her to say, how did your underwear get in my daughter's makeshift bedroom? I mean, they're right there.
Joining us now, Dr. Melina Ryba, joining us out of Myrtle Beach, forensic psychologist and research consultant. Dr. Melina, how do you not know what's in your laundry, your dirty laundry? I see way too much of our family dirty laundry.
Oh, I know what's in there. Thank you, and I agree.
Yeah, and so I think, to the average person hearing that, that immediately raises a huge red flag. And so I think this really all comes back to the mother's parental fitness, right? And her capacity to protect her child. And so there's obviously a lot of details in this case that would suggest that she was not really doing a good job in any capacity in that regard, right? So we have the fact that she introduced unfit people to her children. There was a lack of reaction from her, in terms of being concerned about what was going on up until the disappearance of her child. There's certainly evidence that she was very permissive in terms of what was going on between her daughter and her boyfriend. And it seems to me also that sort of the measures that she was, taking.
Just looking again at the pictures.
Following up on what Dr. Melina Ryba just said, here you see the mom, Jen Soto, worried about another person that could molest Maddie.
Maddie had the opportunity to go visit her biological father.
Oh, yeah.
Out in Texas.
Here, let's hear this for a moment.
Is that yes?
Yes.
All right. Do you remember texting the biological father, hope nobody touches Maddie or tries or films her under the bathroom? You remember sending that text?
That also came out in this April 18th interview. We know that Stefan was filming the roommates under the bathroom. But Jen, before Maddie goes with her dad, says, hope no one's filming it. Like, what? Here, I'm going to drop one more time the link to that interview in full because they're just playing clips. Grizzly has it on her channel here. And then Tell the Truth says, frankly, I still don't understand why Jen has an immunity. Like, if it wasn't for her, the child will still be alive. What's going on in the minds of the police? There's all kinds of neglect all over. Well, I don't know what's going on in their minds, but to me, I don't see it's not a big deal that they get offered her the derivative immunity. Remember, she only has immunity. This means they can't charge her from anything that comes out from that particular interview, or they said they won't go back and charge for her lying if she tells a different story today than she told 2 weeks ago. They won't go back and charge for, that either. They said that wouldn't, I think they said that wouldn't even be considered perjury technically. Maybe it wasn't a sworn statement. I don't know. But I do know that if there's any other evidence at all, if she's texting about what was happening to Maddie, if she was in the pictures, if she was taking pictures, there was evidence she found out about it and they can find so many other ways to charge her. If she was truly involved, I think they would be able to find the evidence to charge her, so it doesn't bother me too much. I personally guess I just don't think she knew fully what was going on. I think she could have had maybe an idea and chose to focus on her own self and her mental health and whatever else instead, which is infuriating, but I don't think that she necessarily was like a part of these photographs, these videos, what was going on between Maddie and Stefan. I mean, let's not forget, we just heard about the text about the coins on Amazon. I think that they had Maddie and Stefan seemed to have at least a friendship, that there were things between them that everyone else wasn't aware of. So I don't know. I think that if there is evidence of her committing a crime, they can still charge her, even giving her this derivative use immunity for the one interview. I don't know why they did it. Maybe they just wanted to ask a few questions. Maybe that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like they got that much like information from her as far as that would help their case. What do you guys think? Hey, Military Ma. There was on Jen's phone. What do you mean, Little Red? How do you know that? We don't know what was on her phone. You know what I mean? Not yet. We might at the trial. Sorry. Yeah, we might at the trial, but I don't even know if we will then. It'll just be dependent on what they decide to show. Sorry, that was probably right in the mic. I moved to the table and I was trying to scoot my arm across it. Hey, Muffins Mimi. Well, we're just about done. I was just sitting here chatting with y'all for a second before we go. Hey, 307 Miss Troy. When the trial happens, wait, let me look this up again just so I, hold on. What are you guys getting into today? His murder trial is set to begin September 22nd of 2025. When is the other one? In February. So February for the dozens of charges of sexual battery of a minor and possession of child pornography. Okay, let's go over here to Court TV for a second just to have a clear idea of what's going on. I'm sure that there's going to be more evidence released and we might go through that. But just so before we go, we have an idea of what's going on. So Stefan faces a busy year in 2025 with 2 dates now set for him to stand trial on murder and sex charges. Stearns is charged with murdering 13-year-old Maddie, his girlfriend's daughter, as well as SAing the child for years before her death. On Monday, a judge scheduled 2 trials for Stearns. In February, he will first stand trial on dozens of charges of sexual battery of a minor and possession of child pornography. Then, in September, he will return in front of the same judge to stand trial on murder charges. Excuse me. So, yeah, it won't be long and we'll be, I don't know how they're going to separate. I guess first, I just wonder how they will, some of the stuff, it seems like they would have to go over for both, right? Like Jen and her communication with Stefan. I want to see who was texting who at what time and what they were saying. Some of that stuff I feel like is going to be relevant in both trials. So I don't know. I wish they would have done them together. I can see why they didn't, because it is two separate things and it can cause prejudice, right? But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they separate that and what evidence will be showed for both. I guess for her murder, the only thing that will be relevant will be kind of what happened but no, because their relationship leading up to it will also be relevant. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes down. I've never followed a case like this before. Yep, he pled not guilty because, yes, Violet, he did. And that's been one of my biggest questions from the beginning. If you go back and watch any of my videos, I just don't understand how he ever thought he would get out of this, especially like the first trial. He technically could, just based on the first trial, I'm pretty sure that there's even the death penalty. I don't know that he's facing it, but he could get life in prison just for the charges from the first trial. There's proof that it was him. It's pictures, right? We have him, photographs of his body. I don't know how he's going to fight that, why he's saying not guilty. And we do know that his traumatic brain injury has come up a few times in conversations with his parents. So it seems like that might be part of his defense. I don't know. He might plea out before then, but he's already went this far and they have a trial date, and it's only, let's see, December. When did it say it was again? February? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, February. So we only have 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. Wow. And we'll be watching that, so. Military Ma. I don't know. I think that. Let's look it up and then I'm going to let you guys go. Capital punishment in Florida. Ow. I just stubbed my toe trying to make it back across the room. I am pretty sure that you can get capital punishment for the charges that he has. Hold on. I didn't type it into Google correctly. Okay, so December 14th, 2023, this was a new law. There's in December, Florida prosecutors seek first death sentence under new child sex abuse law. So I thought so. There was a new law created in Florida. It says on December 14th, Lake County, Florida prosecutors announced they are seeking the death penalty for a man accused of committing the sexual battery of a minor under the age of 12. A statement from the office of the state attorney said the decision reflects the severity of the crime and its impact on the community. Earlier this year, Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation that expands death penalty eligibility to those convicted of sex crimes against children. This is the first case in which Florida prosecutors have sought a death sentence under the new law. So, yeah. I knew that I had heard that, but just to have the 100% facts, yeah. I don't know that they are going to go after him with that for those charges, but they could. All right, you guys. So, hey, Jim. Thank you for joining me this morning as we try to sort through all of this craziness about Nancy Grace, Coffin Daffer, all of that, and also talking about what happened to Maddie, which I do find that to be incredibly important. And I think it's also important to do it in a way that is still respectful to Maddie. And yeah, we're after the facts. That's all. I think with something this serious and any of these cases, we should be after the facts. We should be doing research, making sure things are clear, not putting out misinformation. Breaking news. Madeline Soto's mom, Jen Soto, has immunity. And then some dramatic music. No, she doesn't have immunity. Okay? And yeah, if you came in late and you want to know more about it, just rewind and watch it all, because we tried to go through it. But I hope the court doesn't show pictures of Maddie like they did to Abby and Libby. Dude, what is going on with my computer? Okay, sorry. Melissa, unfortunately, they probably will, because it's part of it. It's part of the evidence. It's going to most likely be shown during medical examiner's testimony, but also the people who did the recovery. But hopefully they just don't broadcast it. And I know actually they won't, because in Florida, they do have laws against, well, I don't know how that applies for a trial. Dude, my cord is not working. Even though it was plugged in, the thing still died. It's really frustrating, but I guess that they're in Florida, there probably would be, they wouldn't put it out on media. There's laws against it, but during the trial, I still think they would be shown. I'm not really sure though. But yeah, my freaking cord, like I don't know if there's a short in it or what, but even when it's plugged in, it's still dying half the time. Hey, P. Lola's mom. Jim, I'm all over the place, so forgive me. Oh, Lil Red, thank you for being a member for 12 months. Oh, wow, I've been with Alex for 12 months. 19 more, I get my gold watch. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening to me. Two Alex is better than one. Or is this Alex and Amy now? You guys are silly. Well, I have a second cord. I'm just going to throw away the one that's doing it because, yeah, it's got a short or something in it. My dad had bought me a second one. I just need to dig it out. Hey, Mark Milligan, good to see you. So good to see you. Yeah, Melissa, I don't think they'll be shown online. I don't really know, because the laws in Florida are pretty strict on that. They won't release minor autopsy stuff. Now, I guess they would show it maybe to the jury, but that's it. But that's just a guess. I really don't know. I'm kind of just finding out as we go. Lil Red, it's not old. My computer is just a little over a year old, but the cord has a short in it. Because I have to wiggle it to get it to, sometimes it'll be plugged in and it won't be charging, and then you wiggle it a little bit and then it will. But anyways, all right, I'm going to stop now. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you for being here with me and going through all of this. It was interesting little journey to kind of learn some of the things that we learned today. I appreciate you guys. Maybe we'll be back to the morning thing. I don't know exactly what time, but just stay tuned. Keep your notifications on so you'll see. I'm going to go work on some calls. We do have some new calls coming and some other things that I want to do. Still want to do the SeaWorld video. I just have felt like crap the last few days, you guys. I have been just cramping and not feeling good. So, yeah. But anyways, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything, and I'll let you go. I'm not going to do a 20-minute goodbye, although I could. I could sit here and smoke this cigarette with y'all and just bullshit about whatever's going on today, but I'm not going to do that to you. I'm going to let you go. Go have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.